Hey there, hi. I am Julie Holman. I am a certified yoga instructor. I teach mindfulness, all levels yoga. I particularly work with those that are underserved populations, and that means that I take time to work with people that are in skilled facilities, assisted living facilities, independent living programs, and I also work with people with disabilities. So I do adaptive yoga. So I work with people that are wheelchair bound, are suffering from physical and emotional trauma. So I have a background in teaching PTSD and people that are trauma related. And so what I'm gonna do right now is do a brief all levels practice, and I'm gonna do about 10 minutes of that. I am in a studio that I teach at. I'm in between classes right now. So I'm gonna utilize a nice little bouncy ball to mimic sitting in a wheelchair or a chair. And then I also have some blocks that are typically used for props, and I also have a mat on the floor. So I will bounce back and forth between a chair practice, and then I will move on into a typical floor practice. And I always offer ways to modify and adapt to alleviate any pressure on the joints, on the shoulders. And again, if people have mobility challenges, I'm careful to make sure I reflect instructions well. And I'm also very engaging and interactive when I'm working in a room. And I'm a nurse, so I bring evidence-based information on into educating how and why the dynamics of moving with breath, posture, and safety in your foundation is very important. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and start off first of all with this nice little ball to mimic that if I'm sitting in a chair. Alrighty, so here we go, folks. Typically I'll have folks be in a circle if they are in wheelchairs or chairs, and I am also very mobile. So taking into mind, I understand the COVID guidelines of washing your hands frequently, making sure that you are physically distanced 6 feet apart, and also wearing a mask because I'm doing this video for you, and yeah, I'm sending it on in, so I'm not gonna have my mask on, okay? But typically I will be having my mask on if I have folks in a room that is indoors. So here we go. We're gonna essentially find ourselves seated into the chair, whether it's a wheelchair with armrests, a chair with arm guides, or a chair without any. And we wanna root our feet down into the earth to make sure that we are comfortable here. So if that means that you have to move your tush down a little closer on down to make sure that you have that firm foundation, then that's what you need to do. Typically I start off also with a nice guided meditation, bringing mind, body, space together to make sure that we are relaxed and avoiding any distractions. So we're gonna plant our palms facing on down and bring our chin into our neck and throat space and take a nice inhale before we move down. And an exhale as we release. Taking a breath in and release it out. Bring that chin on up, so we're opening that airway and facing forward. Take a breath in and release it out. And bring that chin up to the ceiling or the sky, hyperextending the front part of our neck. Bringing the chin up with a breath in and an exhale out. And bring that head back to a nice neutral posture. We're going to bring the chin over towards the right side. Again, the airway is open. We're gazing over for a breath in and an exhale out. Moving past neutral and coming on over to the opposite side. Moving with that breath in and that exhale out. Just going to find ourselves in that nice neutral posture. You can keep your hands rooted down into the thighs. You're welcome to open the palms on up, or if you like, you can place a hand just below the navel, and how you can identify that is the thumb comes into that belly button area and the fingers root down. And you can take another hand up to the top part above the navel. This allows you to really expand the side of the body and actually feel how when you're moving with that inhale and exhaling out that you're really becoming connected with your breath. When you lift up, you're actually also moving the sides, creating a little bit more space in the ribs so you're not down and hunched over. Bringing a subtle awareness to how you are breathing. And this is where we take a moment here just to honor being present and sharing this opportunity with one another. Either A, acknowledging everybody in the space in the room, not judging self or one another, because everybody's body and shape, flexibility, and state of mind can impact how we're moving through our practice today. Back to that neutral. Taking an opportunity here to focus on either an intention or an affirmation or simply one word. And the word that I'm choosing today is grateful. I'm grateful for being here, for being present, and among new faces and friendly, familiar faces. And now we're going to get going. So let's first just start by moving those fingertips and then moving those feet. Some nice wrist circles, moving in and out. We're just going to take a right hand up if we place the left hand down and reach and bring that opposite hand down. Root one hand and bring the opposite hand up. I don't care if you go left or right. It's okay if you mimic me or you do your opposite, whatever feels good for you. Just make sure when you lift with that inhale, you're bringing space, and exhale, release. Shh. One more time up. And exhale down. Fabulous. Now we're going to let that head just roll around the world. Bringing the chin to each shoulder, moving back and forth and tucking and moving around. There we go. And now we're going to do a nice little side twist. So we're going to take both hands on one side of the body, and we're going to create a shape that allows us to lift with the side of the body and exhale as we gaze over the shoulder. We're here for an inhale and an exhale. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can take one hand back behind, plant it near the tailbone, and reach a little bit more depending on your flexibility for an inhale and an exhale. It's going to root back to that center space. Plant both hands onto the opposite side. We're going to lift with that inhale and reach that gaze over the shoulder, looking over for an inhale and an exhale. Again, if you want to go a little deeper, you're going to plant that hand back behind you and reach with that gaze for 3, 2, and 1. Come on over to that neutral posture. Now we're going to go ahead and root one hand on the side of the chair. If you have arms on your chair, you're welcome to place that hand on top so it's level. We're going to take that right arm up so the arm is kissing the ear. We're going to take a breath in, exhale over. Now you can look up, you can gaze up, you can gaze sideways, you can gaze down. Just make sure there's no tension in the neck and throat. Inhale up and exhale on down. We're going to roll our shoulders back and roll our shoulders forward. And then do that on the other side. Plant a hand down or level on up. Take that left hand up so it's coming up near your ear. Reach up and lift up with that breath in. Exhale over. Okay. You can gaze up, gaze down, sideways, around. No tension in the head. Move through that breath. And exhale on down. Now we're going to plant the palms a little bit deeper into knees and roll the shoulders up and bring the palms back. So what we're doing is we're really moving through head, shoulders. We're going to move down to the side of the body with the waist, to the knees and thighs and toes. And here we go. We're going to open those legs a little bit. Make sure the feet are still firmly rooted. And we're going to plant the palms so that they're grappling over the top of the knees. You don't have to hold them tight, but we're going to lean forward here. And we're going to roll that right shoulder towards the left knee. Get that nice little stretch there. So you lift with that inhale and you exhale. You can look at your knee. You can look at the ankle, the floor, your toe, or you can gently gaze over that shoulder with the breath in. Exhale out. Lift with your heart up, and we're going to move to the other side. Left shoulder comes to that right side. Gently here. listening to your body. You don't want to have any pain or discomfort. If you feel like this is an unusual new posture or shape for you, come on out of it. Get a breath and then exhale forward. Go at your level of your comfort. I'm just your guide. Inhale here and exhale. We're going to do that one more time on each side, lifting up with that breath. Exhale, lean forward. Maybe look behind, up or down. Inhale on up, and we're going to do the other side. Exhale here. Inhale and lift on up. We're going to walk our feet on in. We're just going to come into those tippy toes and then rock to the heels. Moving back and forth here. Now, the goal is to allow those digits in your toes squeeze up nice and tight and expand them on out. And now we're going to take some nice ankle circles. And how we're going to do that is we're going to keep one leg firmly rooted, and we can bring one knee up into the chest and get that nice little ankle circle in here. And make sure you go in both directions. Pull the shoulders up. You don't want to hunch down. Honor that breath and that body. And then drop it on down. We're going to move to the other side. And something I'll share in every class. The right side of the body and the left side of the body are very different. So one side might be potentially a little more flexible than the other. And that's okay. You just move through what feels good for you. Again, you're going to lift that knee up into the heart space. Get those nice ankle circles on in. And bring it down. So now we can plant the palms onto the top of the thighs. Again, if you have a chair arms here, you can rest the hands here. We're just going to take one foot up and bring it down, and the next foot. You're moving at a nice slow pace here. Make sure you lift with the inhale, exhale down, lift with the inhale, exhale down. Now, we're going to move a little bit faster. And we're going to move a little bit slower, like really rooting a foot down and slowly lifting that foot up. Ankle circle, slowly bring it down. Same thing on the other side, slowly bring it up. Not holding your breath or being tight anywhere. Get that circle and bring it on down. Fabulous. Now what we're going to go ahead and do here is take that right hand on out, get a nice wrist circle. Bring that hand up, the right elbow with the left hand. We're just going to reach it on up and pull it on through. Get that nice stretch here in that lower back. Depending on your flexibility, you can stay right here, or you can bring that hand back behind. You want the back of your knuckles to come up against the flesh of your back, and try to walk those fingers in towards one another. Now they might not touch, and that's okay, but you can use a strap or just reach and walk them towards one another. And then slowly release that left hand and slowly release that right arm and roll your shoulders up and roll your shoulders back. We're going to do a modified tree posture while we're sitting into this chair. And then I'm going to take an opportunity to move on over to the mat and demo there. So taking into that tree posture, the first thing we're going to do is bring the hands together and the thumbs to the heart space and pull the body up and pull the belly in. So we're going to take a breath in and a breath out. And if we were to pretend that everything from the hips down is a tree rooted down beneath the soil, and everything from the hips up to the shoulders is everything you see from a tree. So you could think of a snow-capped tree, a magnolia tree, any kind of tree you want, but this part here is staying rooted on into the floor. This part here is exposed, and our arms are our limbs. So you can sway those arms back and forth. You can reach them up strong and powerful. You can shift side to side, and your fingers are little branches or maybe leaves. So imagine perhaps the wind is blowing through your tree, or you're very strong and stable, creating any kind of expression that you want with your arms and your fingers. You can bring the palms together and lift up nice and high. You can exhale. exhale and reach up. Or you can simply let those arms float side to side. And then when you're ready, bring them back down to the top of the thighs and roll the shoulder back to each ear. And then just come back to that baseline where we're going to come back to our breath, come back to where we are, and take a nice breath in and release it out. Now starting with a mat class, I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. Doing a mat class, then providing the opportunity and the ability for engagement here. I always offer the props, which I'll bring them right here, and utilize those. I'm going to start with sitting on down onto the mat. And depending on where in the studio y'all are, they are welcome to take their shoes off and be in their socks. I prefer barefooted, and again, I don't know the age demographic for them, so my intention in here is to modify what's necessary to make sure that they're comfortable. So you're going to start sitting on up. I like blocks because this really allows us to utilize the block to make sure our pelvis is firmly rooted. So depending on their mobility, you're going to bring the legs crossed and root that tailbone on down. I'm keeping my shoes, oh, you know what, I'm going to take them off. Take them on off. There we go. And push them on over there. Now I'm rooting my pelvis on down. So this naturally elongates my spine and creates some space on the side of the body. So when I'm shifting and moving, I've got that full opportunity to expand my lungs. The lower lungs, moving down into the alveoli as well as the upper lungs. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the shoulders on back, plant the palms all the way on down into the thighs. Take a breath in the nose. Exhale out. One more breath in. And exhale out. I typically stay a little bit longer with moving through the breath to help create an intention, but I demoed that while I was on the ball. So we're just going to move a little bit forward here. So at this particular point, just guiding back to the intention, and then slowly coming on out of that, removing the block and allowing the feet to come rooted into the earth. So the feet are firmly rooted, the knees are up to the sky. We're going to exhale, bring the knees over to one side and gaze over an opposite shoulder. Scoop that inhale and move back and forth. So we're gently moving side to side. And we're going to do one more time, each side. And if you want to stagger those legs, you can stagger those legs. Again, this is your practice. We want to be safe. And the next thing we're going to do is move into a staff posture. So with staff, our feet are firmly rooted on out. The toes can face the ceiling, or you can flex them forward or bring them on back. And the goal and the intention here is to have the shoulders on back and mindful of that breath, getting the inhale and the exhale. We're just going to gauge our practice today. So I like to start the class with a posture and end the class with the same posture to identify if there is any more flexibility and movement in the body. So we're going to bring the hands all the way on up. Lift with an inhale, exhale, forward fold, and then lift up with that gaze, and then exhale forward, and then move on back. I typically do that 2 to 3 times, and then we shift on over to a cat-cow, moving the palms on down. My instructions are pretty explicit. You want to make sure that you are truly in a tabletop. So the palms are firmly rooted, fingers are nice and wide. You want wrist, elbows, and shoulders on into that cat-cow, lifting up with that breath and exhaling, gazing back. Modifications are taking gorilla, where you're moving the hands into a nice knuckle or fist, and that way you can roll the shoulders a little bit more. Also, as we age, we tend to put more pressure into the wrists. The goal here is to put your weight into the pads of the fingers, like a cat or a dog walks. You put them and keep the fingers wide. Again, you can take gorilla here. And another nice option or a way to adapt through the cat-cow. Another modification is coming down to the forearms and then lifting up, exaggerating with the gaze and the tailbone, and then looking back. Inhale here, and exhale. This allows us to move through the spine. We can turn the chin side to side, bringing each to each shoulder. And we can also modify and move through each different level, providing opportunity for who may or may not be as flexible as the other person. Now we're going to move through downward facing dog. So the palms are going to firmly root. We're going to curl those toes and lift that tailbone up to the sky and allow yourself to come into an inverted V, feeling free to pedal your feet, walk your dog, maybe perhaps even roll onto the toes. And then just really check yourself out. So again, the palms are firmly rooted, and we can move through the ears to the sides of the arms. You can also come down to forearms here. So again, depending on your flexibility and your mobility, you want to gaze up, gaze back, gaze side to side. I'm going to come to the standard posture of downward facing dog. I'm going to widen my feet and softly bend my knees back and forth, allowing myself to slowly walk back so that I'm in a deep, wide leg forward fold. I'm bringing the knees side to side, grabbing a hold of the elbows, and just sway with that breath. I'm going to face you here. And again, listening to the body, moving through, bending the knees. And like a rag doll, we're just going to let those arms dangle on down and slowly come on up. The head and the heart and the shoulders are the last thing, so we're working on getting the legs standing, the hips moving, coming all the way on up to a fully erect standing posture, and then shaking the hands out, rolling onto the toes, and making sure that we're shifting and reaching the body here. So I'm going to do an elephant breath, which is a great way to receive oxygenation through the crown of the head to the tip of the toe, and you can move at your own pace here. We're going to go back to the wide legs. We're going to take a little bend in the legs and just see what this feels like. You can rock side to side. You can bend the knees a little deeper. But essentially with this elephant breath, it's like a Qigong, Tai Chi kind of mixture. You're bending the knees, lifting up with an inhale. And as we exhale, we just swoop the hands on through and perhaps slide them through the legs. Inhale, lift up. And we do this about 2 to 3 times. Exhale here. This really helps with the hips, getting the blood flow throughout the body. It helps release any kind of stiffness or tension or tightness. And we're not hurting any of the joints because we're bending the knees and only moving as far as comfortable for each person. Lift on up and come all the way up into star posture. The feet are still wide, the arms are up. We're lifting with that inhale. Exhale, the right hand is going to swing down towards that left foot. You are welcome to have a block down there. You are welcome to bend the knee. You've got lots of options. But that hand can come to gorilla on a block. You can look back behind you. You can drop that hand to the earth, or you can even take a bend in the knee. But we're coming back up to that star and moving on to the other side. Exhale as you move down. Inhale up and move at your own pace. We're going to do about 5 of these. Walking side to side, identifying how your body shifts and moves to accommodate you and finding your nice, safe and foundation. So after we've done about 5 of those, we are still in star. And then what we're going to do is bring the hands to the hips and walk the feet on in. We're going to move into a crescent posture. The feet are firmly rooted. The hips are baseline. So I'm going to make sure that we're keeping the hips solid instead of swinging or swaying to one side. And if we need to open those legs a little wider than 2 fists, then we'll go ahead and do that. And take a little bend if you like, or bring those knees and thighs in together. I like to walk mine in a little bit closer, and then bring the hands all the way up to the sky. The arms and the ears connect. We suck the belly in and exhale over, gazing up at the ceiling, the wall, or even down at the floor, but making sure that that airway remains open. So we're just doing this gaze with our eyes. For 3, 2, 1, pull the belly up, lift with an inhale, and exhale to the other side. Now, if you're a little more flexible, you can take the right hand and gently tug the left hand. If you're a little bit more flexible, you can rock the right hand down and lift the chin up and bring it all the way on back. Roll those shoulders back and roll those shoulders forward and shake those fingers out, rolling on in. We'll do the tree posture here as well. So I move through the class to make sure that they're warming the entire body up. I go from head to toe and back to head. So we're just gonna do a modified tree posture here, taking that right foot and either putting it up against the side of the foot, resting it on, or moving over to a wall or a stable column, and essentially getting the baseline back into the hips. So the tree can be right here, making sure that you're honoring the inhale and the exhale, focusing that the hips all the way down to the toes are rooted into the earth, so you're strong here. Everything from the hips to the shoulders would be exposed tree trunk. Arms could be the limbs, and the fingers are more limbs or branches and leaves. So allowing each person to be very creative, either flowing with their movement or still with their movement, and making sure that they are safe with either the foot out, the foot against, or even if they need to rock it back and forth. I'll do lots of different modifications depending on flexibility, so the foot can come in, it can come up, never putting the heel on directly to the knee. You can even bring it on out. And again, finding that place and that space to inspire them into their final posture before we move back down to the floor. And then bring it on down. When I move back to the floor, I bookend it, bringing some nice deep stretches, laying back on the back, bringing the knees into the heart space. And one of the favorite stretches that I end with before we move into Shavasana is bringing the knees into the heart space, coming on down. The arms float out to a T. The head is completely reclined and the right hand floats to the outside of the left knee, pulling those legs on over and gazing over an opposite shoulder, allowing for 3 breaths. Taking time to come back to how the body feels and how the body's responding to creating some heat. And then I let the left hand pull the right leg on over, gazing over the opposite side. Same thing here, moving through a breath in and an exhale out. Offering guidance for each person if they want to stay there, and then roll on over to their back and extending the legs out. Always giving modifications. If they want a restorative posture and you allow for props, they can lift the tailbone up and let that block go into a nice restorative place just for a breath or two, or allowing that person or persons to then extend the legs on out, moving into the final posture, which is Shavasana. I like to stay in Shavasana for at least 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how the engagement of the class is. Then bring the knees back to the chest. With an exhale, roll over, and then find ourselves coming back into the beginning posture. Like I said, I bookend, so I typically will go back to a staff posture just as I started practice. Palms are down, palms are up, or palms are even touching the body, allowing each person to either keep their eyes open if they wish, to move through 3 breaths in and 3 breaths out, or closing the eyes. I always welcome at the beginning of the class, and when I close the class out, I acknowledge each person in the room and thank them for showing up and bringing their light to the space. And ending with, until I see you again, peace and be well. And that's pretty much it. So that's it. And I modify depending on the ages, the stages, and how many people are in the class. So, I hope you have a wonderful day. I wish you well. Namaste.